What is going on, YouTube? This is Jim back with another video review here today to talk to you guys about Carrion. Now, this comes to us from Devolver Digital, and it's been worked by Phobia Game Studio. This was first shown, at least to me, the first time I ever actually saw this, was during Devolver Digital's presentation that they did a few weeks ago, which was hysterical and awful all at the same time. It's very meta, making fun of E3, making fun of press conferences in general. This game was featured prominently, and honestly, out of everything that they showed, I felt like this was the one that really got my attention the most. Basically, you play as a monster, and I think that's a really cool concept. I think far too often in video games, as just a general rule, we're always thrust into the role of a good guy. Very rarely are we a jerk or bad. A lot of times, if you start off that way, you will ultimately turn into a good person, or you will have some redemptive arc. Very rarely are you just evil for evil's sake. And I can't really say that this game scratches that itch entirely, but I can tell you that you are a monster. And unfortunately for this game, they don't do a good job of really explaining any story or motivation or lore or anything. And look, I don't need a 10-hour Dark Souls dissertation on the lore of the universe, but anything would have been nice in this game, and we don't get any of it. There's really no story as to why you came to be or how you came to be, really even where you are. All you know is you have to escape, you're a monster, and if you kill and devour, in a hysterical fashion by the way, other human players that are NPCs that are running around on the map, you're going to get stronger and get more abilities, which is going to allow you to eat things faster, break through bigger objects, learn new abilities, and continue on your progression. And in that sense, it's sort of like a Metroid-vania type game, but a very, very, very light iteration. You'll notice in the corner of the screen that there are 4 slots for abilities. That's all you're going to eventually uncover. You're going to slowly gain in size, and when you do, different abilities will be opened and closed for you to use, which will allow you to do things like slam through doors or grab a little tentacle, which you'll see in a little bit here, that allows you to unlock levers through doors you couldn't normally walk through. You eventually learn how to possess NPCs and that sort of thing. And what you're looking at here is just the first 10 minutes of gameplay. I could have showed you some more advanced stuff, but I wanted to keep it simple because I didn't really want to give away spoilers. Although, I gotta admit, there's really not much to spoil. If you've seen what I'm showing you now, you've pretty much seen all of it. I'd say you've seen about 70% of the game. And I feel like this was definitely a fun little indie project for these guys to put together. It definitely scratches that, 8-bit kind of vibe that reminds me a lot of some old Super Nintendo games that were trying to be sort of realistic with the pixel art, but they couldn't really quite pull it off. And honestly, that's really what the studio is known for. So I commend them for sticking to that kind of art style. I think if this game was meant to be ultra realistic with really high fidelity graphics, it probably would look kind of silly. Because I think part of the charm of this game is that you're just this big, red, bloody, tentacle-y monster. Now, I played it on PC. It controls really well. You pretty much use your mouse exclusively, with the exception of a few abilities that will be unlocked, as you see there on the locks on the corner of the screen. But it's very easy to navigate. Whip the mouse around, you basically click wherever you want to go, and the monster is very, very easily maneuvered to that point. You right-click to interact with objects, whether they be doors or humans, and then you can whip the mouse left or right, releasing the right mouse button to throw an object or throw a person or slam through a door or things like that. And that's really the game. There's really not much else to say outside of that. It's a little frustrating, though, as I said. I feel like they could have done more. Why are you here? What is this experiment? Why are these, why are you doing this? None of that is ever uncovered. There's no like lore, there's no computer terminals you could read about if you wanted to. And I feel like that kind of makes the motivation run a little bit thin. And this game is deceivingly long. And I don't want to say it's like, 12 hours long or anything, but it's a good chunk of time. Definitely in some of the later puzzles, what ends up happening is you have to shrink and increase your size. So there is some puzzling there. Certain abilities can only be used at certain times. You notice as I eat, I get bigger. As I get bigger, that unlocks new abilities. But there are some doors that require a smaller variant where you basically bank your body, for lack of a better term, into these certain like pods that kind of make you smaller, or you can siphon energy and get very large. Typically, though, as I've experienced, these stations are basically right outside the puzzle area. So in terms of like, where do I have to go next? You never really feel that way. The only thing that is a bit of a learning curve, and honestly, I still struggled with it even after the game had come out, and I played a couple hours trying to understand it. Sometimes it's a little difficult to understand what you can truly interact with. Some of these doors, they don't seem to behave very well. Sometimes you have to whip the mouse a few times to get them to actually do what you think they're supposed to do. And there were numerous times that I got to a door and I couldn't open it, and I thought it was some sort of barricaded door that required a lever or some sort of switch or something. And it turns out that they didn't. It turns out that I was just either not using enough momentum, or the game wasn't registering that I was clicking on something. I wouldn't say that hindered my experience entirely, because there's not a whole lot of free roam exploration. It's fairly linear in terms of the path they want you to take as you explore this science facility. But the reality is it was a little frustrating because, you're trying to blow through stuff and you're like, you're getting frustrated. And I'm like, this game is not really meant to be a frustrating thing. If I were you, I would check this out on Game Pass for sure. It is available on pretty much every other platform. I'm looking here. You can pick it up on the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4. I'm sure it's worked its way to Steam if it hasn't already, or the Epic Game Store, one of those two. I played it, as I said, on the Windows Game Pass for PC. I don't know if I would recommend this as a full purchase buy, only because it does fall a little flat. I guess if you really truly enjoy this mechanic, you're going to love this game. But the reality is that there's not much more to it than what I'm showing here. So keep that in mind. This isn't some deep, deep game that's going to leave you, kind of like wondering what's going to happen. It is fun to be, the bad guy and eat other people, but why you're doing that, well, that's really for you to decide. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick look at Carrion. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.